Individuals who thrive on putting others down, testing limits, and expecting an eruption are common. Their aim is to provoke, to observe a loss of control, believing it signifies their triumph. Yet true victory resides not in mirroring aggression, but in preserving an unshakable calm. The ultimate power lies in delivering a response so precise, so unexpected, that it renders them speechless, regretting their transgression. Forget raised voices, forget emotional outbursts. This involves calculated words, strategically employed to dismantle rudeness instantly. Arm oneself with 7 powerful comebacks that ensure one never feels disrespected again. Number 1. The Art of Dismissal. That is one's opinion, and one is entitled to ignore it. This comeback is a masterclass in understated power. It's not confrontational, not emotional. A simple, irrefutable declaration that their words hold absolutely no weight in one's world. For an ego-driven individual, nothing is more deflating than being completely dismissed. Rude individuals often speak down not to offer genuine help or out of true conviction, but to exert control, to feel superior, as if their viewpoint is the sole truth and others are merely fools who must listen and obey. When one refuses to argue, refuses to defend, and simply disregards, their desired power is stripped away. Consider a significant project requiring dedication and effort. Sharing progress with an acquaintance, one might be met with a dismissive remark. "That is a waste of time," they might scoff. Does one truly believe anyone will care about that? The former reaction might involve a passionate defense, listing every reason for the project's potential, its personal significance, and the other's error. But consider this. Why seek validation from someone who has never created anything of substance themselves? Instead, one can simply smile and say, that is one's opinion, and one is entitled to ignore it. Then smoothly shift the subject. The other is left with nothing. They anticipated a fight, a desperate plea for approval. By complete dismissal, their ammunition is neutralized, and their deflated expression becomes evident. This response is remarkably effective because it denies the very thing they crave, an emotional reaction. It acknowledges their right to speak, but firmly establishes the right not to care. Validation is not sought, and their negativity simply does not penetrate. One's composure. Being ignored inflicts a potent sting upon those who seek to diminish others. It compels them to confront the uncomfortable reality that their opinion is irrelevant, a truth devastating to those who believe their perspective is paramount. When to employ this verbal shield? When ambitions or career paths are mocked with a cynical, "that will never work." When a judgmental family member feels compelled to critique life choices with unsolicited advice. When a co-worker belittles ideas in a meeting with a condescending tone. The stark truth reveals that many who readily criticize are not exemplars of success. Their volume often conceals deep-seated insecurity. They seek to control the narrative because at their core, they fear being proven wrong. This comeback subtly reminds them that their pronouncements are merely that, opinions, not immutable, facts and certainly not directives for one's life. Embrace the mindset of a lion unperturbed by the bleating of sheep. The next time someone rudely offers unwanted judgment, smile, deliver this line, and continue one's journey, unburdened by their inconsequential pronouncements. One's life is one's own, and their opinions are, frankly, irrelevant. Number 2. The playful jab with a punch. If one received currency for every intelligent remark made by you, one would be impoverished. This comeback serves as verbal gold, achieving a dual impact with deceptive ease. It possesses an almost light-hearted tone, a teasing remark, yet beneath the surface lies a sharp and undeniable sting. It constitutes a clever method of pointing out another's lack of intelligence without resorting to overt insults. The implication is that their contributions are consistently devoid of insightful thought, that their words possess little to no intellectual merit. Frequently, those quick to be rude are also quick to fill silences with insubstantial pronouncements. This line adroitly exposes that tendency, highlighting that while much may be spoken, very little of true value actually emerges. The elegance of this comeback resides in its defensive impenetrability. Should they become angry, they appear overly sensitive and substantiate the point regarding their lack of humor or intellectual agility. Should they attempt to dispute the validity of their statements, they inadvertently reinforce the very point conveyed. It constitutes a verbal checkmate, affording them few dignified avenues of response. Consider an encounter with an individual whose defining characteristic is a relentless need to belittle others. Though not particularly bright, humorous, or successful, they have mastered the art of appearing so. Their strategy involves speaking louder than others, peppering conversations with sarcastic remarks, and generally attempting to diminish others to elevate their own perceived status. In a group discussion, while explaining a straightforward point, this individual might interrupt with a smugly delivered, "Oh yes, because you are such a genius, are you not?" Some present might chuckle, not due to the remark's wit, but due to the speaker's loud confidence, a tactic often swaying those lacking self-assurance. In such moments, a choice presents itself. Ignore the slight or address it directly. One might opt for the latter, a faint smile and the reply, "If one received currency for every intelligent remark made by you, one would be impoverished," can prove effective. Silence might ensue. Another present might react with surprise. The speaker themselves might simply sit there, a flicker of discomfort evident as they struggle to formulate a response. No further rejoinder is readily available. They anticipated a defensive reaction, an attempt to justify one's intellect. Instead, their attempt at superiority was neatly dismantled. It serves as a stark reminder that loud pronouncements do not equate to intelligence. And when effectively challenged, those who rely on such tactics often falter. This comeback resonates deeply because it subtly undermines their perceived intellectual superiority. One is not directly labeling them unintelligent, but one is making it abundantly clear that their contributions lack substance. It reverses their own game of belittlement, placing them in an awkward and untenable position. When this sharp wit proves most effective, during constant interruptions featuring sarcastic and unhelpful remarks aimed at diminishing another. When a co-worker attempts to project superiority but consistently fails to offer any genuine value or solutions. When a friend's humor consistently relies on mocking others rather than exhibiting genuine wit. The often unacknowledged truth is that those who habitually mock others frequently lack genuine substance themselves. They conceal themselves behind a facade of sarcasm, mistaking it for keenness, when in reality, it often serves as a shield for their own insecurities. The most effective approach to such individuals is to expose this emptiness. The next time someone who seldom contributes anything meaningful attempts to portray themselves as the resident intellectual, deploy this line and observe their struggle to produce a clever retort. The ensuing silence will speak volumes. Number 3. Setting unwavering boundaries. One does not engage in discourse with those who find satisfaction in disrespect. This extends beyond a mere comeback. It functions as a potent declaration of self-respect. It unequivocally conveys, to the other individual, one perceives precisely your intention and one declines to participate. For truth be told, some individuals do not seek a genuine exchange of ideas, a debate with the potential for mutual understanding, or even a resolution. Their singular objective is to incite discord, to belittle others, and to bask in a transient sensation of superiority. These are the individuals who never truly listen. They merely await their opportunity to interject, twisting every disagreement into a personal affront. Should one express a preference for one beverage over another, they might somehow interpret it as a personal slight. They wear their rudeness as a badge of honor, frequently concealing it behind the flimsy guise of just being brutally honest, when in actuality they are simply being brutal. Therefore, why expend precious energy engaging in a futile argument with someone who does not even grant basic respect? Consider a past interaction with a colleague who not merely exhibited rudeness, but actively reveled in disrespectful behavior. For this individual, mere disagreement was insufficient. They felt compelled to make others feel intellectually inferior in the process. Interruptions during meetings were commonplace. Ideas were dismissed without any constructive alternatives being offered, and a particular fondness for delivering passive-aggressive insults was evident at every available opportunity. During one team discussion, an idea was proposed, a fairly straightforward suggestion aimed at streamlining a specific workflow. Before the explanation could even be completed, this individual rolled their eyes dramatically and sneered, "Yes, because you are such an authority, are you not?" It was condescending, dismissive, and utterly unwarranted. The inclination might have been to rise to the bait, attempting to justify the suggestion, meticulously detail the reasoning, or even retort with a retaliatory remark. But on that occasion, their game was not to be played. Leaning back, direct, eye contact was made, and the simple statement, "One does not engage in discourse with those who find satisfaction in disrespect," was delivered calmly. Then, silence followed. The room quieted, all attention fixed upon the individual, awaiting the inevitable rejoinder. But none came. What could be said? To continue the tirade would only validate the initial statement. To attempt backtracking would appear weak and insincere. The individual sat there, visibly fidgeting, searching for a comeback that simply did not exist. The most advantageous outcome. Following that moment, such behavior was never again directed towards the speaker. This line possesses such potency because it directly addresses their behavior without necessitating engagement in it. No insults are exchanged. Instead, their modus operandi is simply described, and this can prove far more impactful. Their control is immediately removed by denying them the reaction they so desperately seek. Individuals of this nature thrive on eliciting a response, on provoking and irritating. When their attempts are met with refusal to participate, their power dissipates. It compels them to reevaluate their actions, even if their pride prevents outward acknowledgement. A mirror has effectively been held up to their behavior. Situations where this line proves an invaluable ally. When an individual consistently attempts to provoke an argument fueled by negativity rather than a genuine desire for understanding. When a coworker or superior adopts a condescending or dismissive tone, clearly indicating that such treatment will not be tolerated. When a friend or family member habitually belittles others, mistaking closeness for permission to be disrespectful. When a stranger attempts to provoke for no apparent reason. Remember, not every conflict warrants one's energy, and some individuals are simply not worth acknowledging. The unvarnished. Truth is that some individuals do not engage in arguments to seek resolutions. They argue to assert dominance, to revel in the discomfort of others. They derive a perverse satisfaction from irritating and upsetting. The most effective response in such situations is not to counter their points, but to withdraw entirely from their toxic game. Deliver this line: one does not engage in discourse with those who find satisfaction in disrespect, and then withdraw, both physically and emotionally. The moment they realize their control over another's emotional state has vanished, they have already been defeated. Number 4. Exposing the futility. Such an attitude is unlikely to lead to favorable outcomes in life. This transcends a mere retort. It serves as a stark, albeit concise observation regarding life's realities, delivered in a single sentence. Individuals who navigate the world with a perpetual air of rudeness, disrespect, and dismissiveness often labor under the delusion that they are somehow gaining an advantage, that their abrasive conduct signifies strength or superiority. In actuality, their toxic attitude constitutes a guaranteed one-way passage to unfavorable circumstances. This line resonates with such potency because it directly challenges their flawed perception. Rude individuals frequently confuse arrogance with genuine confidence, believing that condescending behavior elevates them. However, the reality of existence diverges significantly. Respect is cultivated through mutual consideration, not demanded through belittlement. No rational individual truly respects someone who treats others poorly. No discerning leader will promote an individual who consistently alienates their colleagues. Meaningful and enduring relationships are founded upon empathy and understanding, not upon tearing others down. And history abounds with examples of successful individuals who attained their objectives through collaboration and intellect, not by speaking abrasively and trampling upon others. When one delivers the line, such an attitude is unlikely to lead to favorable outcomes in life. More than a fleeting silencing occurs. The trajectory of their future difficulties is exposed. They are compelled to confront the uncomfortable truth that their present conduct will inevitably lead to negative repercussions, limiting their opportunities and isolating them from genuine connection. Consider a past professional association. with an individual who genuinely appeared to believe that rudeness constituted a personality trait to be cultivated. This individual possessed a knack for inducing feelings of inadequacy in those around them. Errors were met, not with helpful guidance, but with dramatic eye rolls and condescending sighs. Innovative ideas, if voiced, were summarily dismissed before a complete explanation could even be offered. This was the quintessential individual who operated under the misguided notion that diminishing the achievements of others would somehow enhance their own perceived brilliance. During a particularly strained meeting, this individual directed a sharp remark towards a junior colleague struggling to articulate a point. "Perhaps," they sneered, "if one actually possessed a grasp of the subject matter, we would not be wasting everyone's time." The room fell silent, a familiar wave of discomfort washing over the assembled. This behavior was typical, and colleagues had grown accustomed to silently enduring these outbursts. Rude individuals often thrive in such environments, relying on the reluctance of others to challenge their negativity. However, a point of saturation was reached. Direct eye contact was made, and the calm statement, "Such an attitude is unlikely to lead to favorable outcomes in life," was delivered. A momentary smirk flickered across the speaker's face, as if the comment was deemed irrelevant. However, as the meeting progressed, a subtle yet significant shift in their demeanor became apparent. The characteristic swagger vanished. The sarcastic interjections ceased. For the first time, they appeared genuinely uncomfortable. Why? Because at some level, the truth of the statement likely resonated, and in a twist of irony, when promotion announcements were subsequently made, this individual's name was conspicuously absent from the list. For regardless of one's technical proficiency, if interpersonal interactions consistently leave a residue of resentment and negativity, a professional ceiling will inevitably be encountered. This line proves so effective because it compels a consideration of the broader ramifications of their conduct. In the immediate context, a transient sensation of power might be derived from their rudeness, but their attention is being drawn to the long-term consequences of such actions. Their self-sabotage is being exposed, the manner in which their own negativity actively impedes their progress and alienates those around them. This is not merely an insult. It constitutes a factual observation, and facts often possess a far greater and more lasting impact than mere emotional barbs. When to deliver this dose of reality? When a co-worker's persistent rudeness and condescension contaminate the workplace environment, when a stranger's disrespectful conduct in public warrants a direct, albeit concise, commentary on their character, when a family member habitually demeans others, reminding them that familial bonds do not grant a license for perpetual negativity, when a friend's consistently toxic and dismissive disposition requires addressing with a measure of honest feedback. Ultimately, some individuals traverse life under the assumption that their rudeness renders them untouchable, somehow exempt from the common rules of social interaction. However, life possesses a remarkable capacity for humbling those who perceive themselves as superior. The next time one encounters disrespect, arm oneself with this potent truth. Such an attitude is unlikely to lead to favorable outcomes in life. Then observe as they grapple with the uncomfortable possibility that perhaps, just perhaps, they are the source of their own difficulties. Number 5. the ultimate shutdown. This exchange concluded before its inception. This transcends a mere comeback. It represents a verbal checkmate of the highest order. It is the type of response that does not merely terminate a dispute, it eradicates its very existence. It conveys to the rude individual that while they may have believed they were initiating a contest of wills, their presence on the field of engagement is not even acknowledged. Disrespectful individuals find sustenance in conflict. They seek to provoke a reaction, to agitate, to draw others into a contentious exchange, for within that arena, they experience a distorted sense of control. However, what transpires when one flatly refuses to engage, when it is unequivocally communicated that their words possess absolutely no value or influence? Their footing falters, their carefully constructed platform of provocation crumbles. By stating, "This exchange concluded before its inception," an incredibly potent maneuver is executed. Their perceived control is stripped away. Their attempts at instigation are rendered meaningless, and it is demonstrated that they neither dictate nor can dictate one's emotional state. Rest assured, nothing is more frustrating to a rude individual than being completely and utterly disregarded in their attempts at inflammation. Imagine a playground bully attempting to shove another, fully anticipating a retaliatory push. Yet instead of reacting with anger or fear, the intended target simply turns and walks away with an air of complete indifference. The bully is left standing, their aggression meeting a void, their power play neutralized. This mirrors the precise effect of this comeback. Their capacity to engage, to provoke, to manipulate is removed. They are compelled to confront the reality that their words are so inconsequential that they do not even warrant a response. This, in essence, constitutes the ultimate verbal rebuff. It denies them the very satisfaction they sought, the drama of an argument. They arrived prepared for confrontation, but the offer to engage was never extended. It instantly elevates one's position, placing them beyond notice. The communication is clear. Their words are so insignificant, they do not even merit the expenditure of mental energy. Furthermore, it safeguards one's own well-being. Engaging with rude individuals is emotionally depleting. This line safeguards inner peace by preemptively terminating the interaction before it can even take root. Consider a past encounter with a colleague who consistently disseminated negativity. Let this individual serve as an example of such behavior. This individual would find fault with all aspects, ideas, work, even the manner of speaking, and a favored tactic involved delivering criticisms publicly, seemingly relishing the discomfort engendered. One day during a meeting, a novel approach for a particularly challenging project was suggested. Before the explanation could be completed, this individual interjected with a dismissive smirk. "Yes, or perhaps we could simply do it the correct way instead." The familiar tension rippled through the room. This individual was attempting to provoke, anticipating a defensive reaction, a debate on the merits of the idea, an emotional response. Instead, calm eye contact was made, and the statement, "This exchange concluded before its inception," was delivered. Then, attention was redirected back to the work, effectively dismissing their comment and attempt to derail the discussion. The room fell silent. This individual appeared genuinely taken aback, completely thrown off balance. A stammered attempt to clarify concerns followed, but the momentum had dissipated. Why? Because a confrontation was expected, a defensive posture. Instead, their negativity was treated as if it simply did not register. Subsequently, this individual exhibited a noticeable reluctance to direct such negativity towards the speaker. When this potent phrase proves the most effective defense, when an individual is clearly attempting to bait into a futile and energy-draining argument, no obligation exists to expend time or emotional energy. When a co-worker, superior, or even a casual acquaintance resorts to passive-aggressive remarks intended to undermine, terminate the interaction before escalation. When a family member or friend is being unnecessarily rude, mistaking familiarity for permission to inflict hurt, no obligation exists to entertain negativity, regardless of the relationship, when a complete stranger hurls an unprovoked insult. Some individuals merely seek attention, even negative attention. Do not grant them this satisfaction. The fundamental truth remains that not every conflict warrants engagement. Not every insult demands a response. Rude individuals achieve their aim when they successfully extract energy and disrupt inner peace. However, they are utterly defeated when it is demonstrated how little their negativity impacts another. Therefore, the next time an attempt is made to draw one into a pointless argument, remember this potent phrase. This exchange concluded before its inception. Then, with an air of unbothered indifference, withdraw, leaving the instigator to grapple with the realization that their attempt failed before it even began. Number 6. The art of instant oblivion. Appreciate the input. It will be promptly disregarded. Rude individuals often operate under the presumption that their words possess significance, that their negativity will linger and fester, eroding another's confidence. Their goal is to diminish, to unsettle, and ultimately to drag others down to their own level of negativity. However, when this seemingly polite yet devastatingly dismissive line is employed, their perceived power evaporates instantly. Because, let's be honest, the vast majority of instances of disrespect involve no genuinely valuable contribution. No meaningful discussion is being facilitated, no constructive criticism offered. Instead, words are often uttered for the mere sake of hearing oneself speak, frequently fueled by personal insecurities, with the expectation that these pronouncements will be taken seriously, that their negativity will be internalized, but instead of validating their rudeness with a defensive reaction or even thoughtful consideration, the opposite course is taken. Their words are treated as so utterly insignificant that the effort of remembering them is deemed unnecessary. This constitutes the core brilliance of this comeback. It acknowledges their attempt to offer input, but immediately consigns it to the realm of the utterly forgettable. It serves as a subtle yet potent means of conveying, your opinion holds no value, is not required, and is certainly not something I intend to dwell upon. The efficacy of this phrase lies in its immediate, deflationary effect. Disrespectful people want their words to have an impact, to take root in another's mind, to affect their self-perception. But when met with, appreciate the input, it will be promptly disregarded. The message conveyed is clear. Your breath has been wasted, and your words will not be granted even a fleeting moment of consideration. This realization can prove crushing for someone seeking to assert dominance through negativity. It halts them in their tracks. An argument, a display of anger, or at the very least, a justification of actions was likely anticipated. Instead, they are met with casual indifference, a subtle yet unmistakable communication that they simply do not matter sufficiently to warrant engagement with their negativity on any meaningful level. The silence that often follows this response is telling. It signifies their dawning realization that their attempt to wound has failed utterly. Furthermore, this response provides an excellent means of safeguarding one's own energy. Some individuals appear to thrive on interpersonal drama and derive pleasure from eliciting strong emotional reactions from others. However, inner peace holds far greater value than indulging their need for conflict. Rather than becoming entangled in a futile back and forth, this phrase offers a concise and effective method of terminating the interaction and proceeding unburdened by their negativity. Illustrative applications of this subtle dismissal in real-world scenarios. In the professional sphere, consider a colleague who consistently undermines ideas during meetings, not because they are genuinely flawed, but because this individual enjoys being critical. They might remark with a smirk, "That's an interesting perspective," but perhaps the more experienced individuals should handle the serious suggestions. Instead of getting flustered or defensive, a calm reply of "appreciate the input," it will be promptly disregarded, followed by a continuation of the original point as if the dismissive remark never even occurred, can prove highly effective. This instantly renders their negativity inconsequential in the eyes of all present. Within familial or social circles, a family member might offer a condescending remark regarding career aspirations or life choices, such as, "Still pursuing that little hobby? When will you finally focus on something practical?" Instead of launching into a lengthy explanation or allowing their words to sink in and erode self-confidence, a serene smile coupled with "appreciate the comment. It has already been disregarded," followed by a smooth transition to a different subject, can prove powerful. They will likely feel the sting when they realize their negativity holds no sway. In interactions with strangers or online antagonists, should an individual attempt to demean in a public setting or online, lobbing an unnecessary insult in an attempt to elicit a reaction rather than becoming worked up or engaging in a futile online exchange, a casual, "Oh, how insightful, appreciate the input, it will be forgotten momentarily," can prove remarkably effective. The more unconcerned the delivery, the more impactful the dismissal. The psychological power behind this response is simple yet profound. Rude people operate on a basic formula. They deliver a negative remark, and they expect an emotional reaction in return. This reaction, whether it's anger, defensiveness, or sadness, validates their attempt to exert power. But when met with effortless dismissal, this pattern is completely disrupted. Their anticipated reward is denied. The implicit message is clear. Their words hold no weight and merit no further consideration. This leaves them feeling powerless and often bewildered. Number 7. The mirror of foolishness. One appears remarkably committed to self-diminishment. Certain individuals exhibit a seemingly irresistible attraction to interpersonal strife, conflict, and utterly pointless disagreements. It is as if they commence each day with the unspoken intention of identifying opportunities for self-embarrassment. This comeback operates as a form of verbal judo, skillfully redirecting their intended negativity squarely back upon themselves. They likely thought they were making you look bad with their rudeness, but with this line, you simply expose the reality. They are the ones engaging in foolish behavior, often without even a shred of self-awareness. This response hits hard because it forces a moment of potential self-reflection, even if their ego fiercely resists acknowledging it outwardly. When rudeness is exhibited, the typical expectation is a defensive or upset reaction. This line throws a curveball, making them pause and perhaps even fleetingly wonder, wait, am I the one appearing foolish in this situation? Even if pride prevents an admission, the seed of doubt has been sown. It cleverly shifts the spotlight from you, the intended target, back onto them, the perpetrator of the rudeness. Instead of you having to defend yourself against their negativity, their actions now occupy center stage, and in the worst possible light. If others are present, they will likely start to recognize the absurdity of the rude person's behavior, further amplifying their discomfort. Now the rude individual is faced with an unenviable choice. Either attempt to backpedal and appear weak, or double down on their foolishness, thereby only solidifying your point. Crucially, this comeback allows you to maintain control of the interaction without resorting to anger or defensiveness. You remain calm, observant, and simply call out their behavior in a way that makes them look like the fool, not you. And the best part, you can deliver it with a slight knowing smile, further underscoring your unperturbed state. How to effectively wield this mirror of foolishness in various situations. In the professional arena, consider a colleague who habitually interrupts during meetings, rolls their eyes dismissively, or makes snarky, undermining comments. Instead of getting flustered, pause, make direct eye contact with a hint of a smile, and state, one appears remarkably committed to self-diminishment. Then simply continue with your point as if their interruption was insignificant. The likely outcome will be awkward silence on their part, or a feeble attempt at justification that only further highlights their inappropriate behavior. Within social or familial interactions, a so-called friend might habitually throw passive-aggressive insults your way, trying to provoke a reaction and undermine confidence. Perhaps they offer a backhanded compliment dripping with false sweetness like, well, look at you, actually managing to accomplish something for once. Instead of flinching or engaging in a tit-for-tat exchange, simply chuckle lightly and say, one appears remarkably committed to self-diminishment. Then continue enjoying the interaction while they stew in the realization that their attempt to diminish you has backfired spectacularly. In encounters with strangers or online provocateurs, should an individual act obnoxiously in a public setting or on social media, attempting to draw you into their vortex of negativity instead of engaging, employ the line, one appears remarkably committed to self-diminishment. By all means, continue. Then either physically remove oneself or log off, leaving them to confront the weight of their own absurdity. The underlying psychology of this response is that most rude individuals do not actually perceive themselves as foolish. They often believe they're being clever, dominant or somehow winning the interaction through their negativity. But when you directly call out their behavior for what it truly is, self-embarrassing, you force them to confront an uncomfortable truth that they likely haven't considered. They are making a spectacle of themselves, and everyone around them can see it. That's what makes this so effective. It doesn't just shut them down in the moment. It can also make them second-guess their rude behavior in future interactions, lest they risk further public displays of their own foolishness. This subtle but powerful shift in their self-perception is where the true victory lies. Ultimately, navigating interactions with rude individuals is not about engaging in a battle of insults or stooping to their level. It is about maintaining one's composure and strategically employing responses that expose their behavior and reassert control. Raised voices, lengthy arguments, and taking their negativity seriously are unnecessary. For the fundamental truth remains: disrespect only gains traction when it is allowed to breach one's defenses and elicit a reaction. However, when one remains calm, delivers a precise and effective response, and proceeds as if their words held no consequence, that is when the impact is truly felt. That is when they realize their efforts to diminish another have only served to illuminate their own shortcomings. Therefore, the next time rudeness is encountered, remember the power to evoke regret lies not in mirroring their negativity, but in clearly demonstrating that their words are utterly meaningless. And once this realization dawns upon them, the interaction has already been won.